Hello, everyone, and welcome to Gearing Up. This is the podcast where we talk about gear and everyday carry stuff and all that. I'm your host, Greg, and I am actually joined by a very special guest today. We've been trying to make this happen for quite a while. God, the better part of a year, maybe a little more. And here we are. Uh, it's a rainy Tuesday afternoon for me, but I'm joined by Houston knife maker Chris Daigle. Hello, Chris.
Hey guys. Hey Greg. Thanks for having me.
So, yeah, so before we jump into too much, just a little rundown. So I reached out to you. I'm trying to think back to when originally I shot you a message, and I don't remember if I emailed you. I think I emailed. Did I email you?
You know what? It was so long ago, I don't remember. I honestly don't remember.
Well, either way, so I
Or
either
maybe it was
emailed or
through
shot you a
Instagram.
DM or yeah, something like that. But I was reaching out and was trying to find some makers, and I
You
had
wanted
I
some
had
local makers.
what's that?
You wanted some local makers?
Yeah, I was trying to find some folks in the area that I could kind of go to, and now it's funny we come full circle from meeting in person, and now due to the current situation, I'm working from home, so I'm able to cut time out for this.
Right.
Um, but yeah, we've been going back and forth for a while, and you've been a consistent listener of the podcast, it seems like, and there's always some
Yep. Love it.
comment on posts about stuff. So it's been good to get to know you a little bit, and now to have you on is it's very entertaining for me, and I'm looking forward to picking your brain a little bit.
Well,
So
I appreciate it.
yeah, absolutely. So just to kind of set the stage, so you are first, let's rewind and let's talk about you and what you do, how long you've been doing this, and is this your full-time gig or do you have a day job? Just walk me through that kind of stuff first.
Okay, so I do have a full-time career. It's as a creative director for an advertising agency, marketing firm, design firm, whatever you want to call it. It's kind of like everything under one roof. And I've been doing that. I've been doing that all of my professional career. So I've always been into design, art, advertising, whatnot. Knives have been a hobby for a very long time, and that's always kind of where it's been.
Okay. So, and I think when we first started talking, that little bio right there is kind of what intrigued me the most. For those that don't know, I went to school for advertising and
Right.
worked at an agency, and now I kind of do some of that stuff for a private company. And so, having someone with that same mindset of just marketing and advertising and media and all of that stuff was super exciting. And then, oh hey, this guy also makes knives, and he's kind of into knives too, and he's kind of goofy online and all that stuff. So it was really cool to see that. So um I was we were talking just before I hit record, and I was talking about kind of deep diving into some of the forums, and there were posts from 6 or 8 years ago. I mean, when did this go from I like knives, I carry knives to I'm going to see if I can make one. And then, then I actually made one. What when was that?
Oh, so the transition of like maybe collecting or carrying to
Yeah.
actually. Okay. So I I want to say the first custom I ever made was in '98,
Okay.
and I'm not sure you're aware of, but in Houston we have the benefit of having Texas Knife Maker Supply here in town,
Oh
and
no, I didn't know that.
it's a brick and mortar. It's off of 610 by I-10 uh,
Okay.
on the west side, almost to Katy. And so, I'm sorry, Beltway 8. I said 610. I meant Beltway 8.
Okay.
It's a real brick and mortar, and they have a showroom. You can walk in and hand pick your handle materials, get your steels. I mean, it was basically just a one stop shop.
Yeah.
And so,
Walmart for knife makers.
yeah, it was incredible, and they were open for half a day on Saturday, so you could go even though you work during the week and all that kind of stuff. And so, with a background of art and woodworking and knife collecting, my wife was actually the first one to suggest. She's like, I think you can do this yourself. I think you can make your own knife. And I'm like, all right, why not? So I just waltzed into Texas Knife Maker Supply and talked to one of the owners there, and I asked for a suggestion of blade steel to start with, and
Mhm.
I picked up the other materials and went home and proceeded to make quite possibly the ugliest knife I've ever seen.
Oh, that's good. Hey,
And I
but you know
still
what?
own,
Everybody starts somewhere, right? I mean, it.
I still own that knife, and I used an old um, wood making grinder, like a wood grinder for like
Uh-huh.
I was like I said, I was doing woodworking and all that kind of stuff, so I didn't really know the difference between a dedicated, knife grinder or something that was, originally meant for wood. So I made that, and so yeah, that was back in '98. D2 steel, nickel, silver bolsters, desert ironwood handles.
I
Yeah,
mean, you can't go wrong with D2, so that, tried and true. That's so okay, so it turns into, hey, I think you could do it. You grind out this less than attractive knife, we'll say. Um and how long from hobby to business, what was that time period of transition like? I mean, how long after you started did hey, there's some room in here for me to sell these and continue making and all that stuff.
yeah. So I have to give a lot of credit to the forums at the time because that was really the only way for me to get out there unless I was going to go to a show. And I thought
Mhm.
that was a little bit too early. I wasn't, I wasn't going to get a table at Blade or anything like that.
Right.
I went onto the forums and posted pictures, and I got a lot of constructive criticism back from makers, which is what I wanted. I just didn't want a pat on the back or an attaboy. I wanted to
Right.
say what I was doing wrong, what I was doing right, and all that kind of stuff. And they gave me a lot of encouragement. So I think the following year for my birthday is when my wife got me my first real knife grinder.
Nice.
So the level I guess really jumped up at that point, and I realized that hey, between um, between the art and having been around knives for so long, I kind of knew what I wanted to make, and I think I was being held back a little bit by equipment.
Mhm.
So once I started to get some really good equipment, uh, I could I could start to see a real improvement in my work.
Yeah, absolutely. And I, speaking of the forums, I was telling you before we jumped on to record, I found one from like 2010. So we're talking 10 years ago. And you've been at it, at that point for, I don't know, 10, 11 years. There's some stuff that, I mean, you could have been doing it for a lifetime and not get to this level. So it looks to me like you like to make kitchen knives, or do you like to make kitchen knives, or do you just make them because that's what folks order?
Um, uh, I, I have a real passion for chef's knives only because I love to cook myself.
Right on.
So, my style of handle and blade shape and all that kind of stuff translated really well into chef's knives. So it was kind of a natural progression. And it started with if you look at some of my smaller fixed blade knives and then you just kind of scale it up, you'll see one of my larger kitchen knives.
Mhm.
So it just kind of made sense.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been fun to go through because and you one of the things that I like about your work, and for the folks that don't know, we'll plug this again at the end, but Daigle, Daigle_knives on Instagram. And like I said, I'm scrolling through an older forum post now, but you you kind of, I don't want to say you don't have a specific style because that's not true. Because I feel like I can scroll through all of these and say, oh, this looks like something Chris would make. But you go from this very traditional chef's knife to um a small neck knife to the
Foot
the the
daggers
the
too.
folder that's on your homepage,
Oh yeah.
with the Damascus bolsters and all that, like, it,
Yeah.
and then to like the push knives, like you've kind of you've kind of got not that you're all over the place, but you've got a bunch of different styles. I see a fillet knife. Like, is there any one that you like making more than another, or any one that was like a particular challenge?
Oh, definitely the folders.
Okay,
Definitely, yeah, definitely the folders. Moving from fixed blades to wrapping your head around folders, it's a whole nother animal, man.
right on. You
It was rewarding. I got talked into it by a friend of mine, very good friend of mine, who I've made several knives for, and just he just pushed me hard enough, and he said, "I think you need to make folders." And so I tried to do as much research as I could. I reached out
mhm,
to makers, got them on the phone, and went to shows and all that kind of stuff. Bought some books, bought some DVDs, and just learned how to make liner locks and frame locks and whatnot.
it's awesome. And so there are some makers that I've talked to that they sort of take pride in like everything is by hand, 100%. I
Yeah.
don't water jet, I don't CNC. And I don't, I mean, as someone that's not a maker, I don't have a preference either way, but is that so do you use like water jetting, or do you just kind of start with a blank slab of steel and cut it out from there? How does that go?
It's since my shop is basically my garage. I converted the garage into a full shop.
Okay.
Uh, I cut everything out there. Everything's done by hand. I have used water jet. Well, I don't know if you've seen my little bottle openers.
Mhm.
They're
Mhm.
so small, and they're made out of such thick titanium that there's no way I'm going to sit there on the bandsaw all day and cut those things off.
Right.
So and for what I'm charging, and I usually just give them away to friends and family and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So there's no way that I'm gonna like hand make a bottle opener like that. So
Right.
um, I did use a local water jet service for that, for sure, for sure.
Very nice. No, and the only reason I ask is that, like I said, there's some makers that sort of pride themselves on doing everything by hand, but yeah, I mean, just looking at it, I wouldn't be able to tell. Now, like I've got your Instagram pulled up, and I'm looking at the titanium bottle bits that you've got, and those look very recently machined and very clean, and I like seeing those. So, that's always cool to me.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, it made sense too. I had I drew it up in 2D. I had it printed out. I had it 3D printed just to make sure that it would work. I mean, I wouldn't trust the plastic to like last through multiple bottle caps or anything like that. But
right.
I just wanted to like see if it felt good in the hand and actually would open a bottle. And so it did. And because I wanted more than just a couple, water jet made sense.
Yeah.
Now, as far as my custom work is concerned, I'm always tweaking something. So, I mean, you're probably never going to see the same knife twice. So why would I get like dozens and dozens of water jet parts
Yeah, no, that's true.
if I always want to evolve the design a little.
Yeah,
I have gotten other stuff water jet cut, but they're like small neck knives and stuff like that that I haven't
right.
finished. But I really do like starting from scratch, and I design in Adobe Illustrator,
Mhm.
and then I just start from there.
No, that makes total sense, and hearing it kind of explained like that, sort of helps me understand. Yeah, that idea of constantly tweaking or improving or change, or even if it's just a customer request of, hey, let's make this jimping a little more aggressive
Yeah,
or something like. Yeah, I mean, being able to start with a clean slate every time. No, that makes total sense. So I'm with you on that. Okay. Um, so in addition to uh making knives and all of that stuff, I know you said you sorry. It's like
yeah.
I'm looking out my window now. The rain is gone. It was storming like you wouldn't believe earlier. um
And for the listeners, you just had hail recently, so
yeah, no, yeah, I was opening up a new tab, and Google was like, hey, there's a tornado warning, and I was like, oh. I
as
should
if
check
it's
on that, and sure enough, it was like, "Hey, you could experience 1-inch hail." And
right.
so I pulled my car in the garage really quickly, and then as soon as I closed the garage, I started hearing, and I went out front, and yeah, there were chunks of hail. Anyways, um, to shift gears a little bit, on your Instagram page right now, it says you're not currently taking orders. So, I've talked to some makers that are full-time makers and their books are crazy, and I've talked to some that are not full-time makers, and same thing, their books are just stacked. And now you say you're not taking orders. Is it kind of just a when you get to because you're still, working full time, and you've got your day job to focus on, is this still way more of a hobby? Do you keep an order book? What's that like?
Okay, so I guess my idea of how I want to do this is I want to be able to work on what I want, what I work on at any given time. So, um, in other words, if I were to open up my order books and everyone would order one of those folders like that's on my website,
Right.
I'm afraid that I would get inundated with so many orders that I wouldn't be able to do anything else.
Yeah.
And I've seen makers in the past get really swamped with orders and not follow through. And I don't want it to ever get to that point.
Yeah. True.
So if I make something and I have it available for sale, then I'll let everybody who's on my Instagram or follows me or anything like that. Hey, it's going to be made available. But I don't want to make 50 of the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
I want to break up the monotony and make a chef's knife every once in a while, and then I'll switch over to folders, and then I don't know, maybe I'll get a bug and like want to make another push dagger all of a sudden.
Yeah.
I don't want to be constricted. But to answer your question, yeah, it's mainly because of my full time job that I do still treat this very much like a hobby.
Yeah. No, that's completely understandable. I won't pretend to know like how busy you are, but I know when I was working in an agency, there's just so many moving parts. Like it can get chaotic really, really quickly. So,
Yeah.
no, that's
Well,
that's completely understandable.
like I like to tell people is I'm a part time maker, and what that means is I make knives part of the time.
Right.
So, and even after even if I can't work on them during the week because of a long week workload, Saturday or Sunday will come and I'm still tired, or there's stuff that needs to happen around the house, or I want to spend time with my wife and my dogs and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I don't always have the urge. I really do envy some of these guys that can get in their shop 5, 6, 7 days a week, but I just can't do it.
Yeah. No, I mean that's understandable. And it's one of those things where I always have kind of a struggle of making a hobby a job, and like
Yeah.
like even the podcast, I remember kind of the first run of episodes we did, we even got to the point where we were spacing them out so much because we were just kind of exhausted. And now I think we found a good rhythm, and so no, I mean that's good. You strike a balance and you kind of figure out how much of your time you want it to take up, and I'll be honest, you've been doing it for a while, but the stuff that you're cranking out is, I think it's great. Not to you know um, blow smoke, as they
No,
say,
I
but no,
appreciate
I
that.
mean it's cool to see someone take a hobby and really, I mean, if I were looking at your homepage and I saw that Damascus bolster or some of these chef's knives, like, oh yeah, that's all he does. That's all he does is make knives, and so it's it to me it's cool to see that it's still a hobby for you, and it's still something that you make time for, but you're also not letting it like fully consume. So,
Well, I
and
appreciate that. You know,
now I'm looking at this
have
chef
had
knife.
I've had people assume that I was full time, and that's probably the biggest compliment I could get.
Yeah, I mean, and so has that ever been a goal? Will it ever be a goal, or is this just gonna continue to be, the hobby and when you've got time for it?
Well, if this virus keeps going,
You might have to. No, okay, so it's a great segue. So have you, for those that are listening right now, I don't know how time sensitive these episodes are. Right now, we're in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic, and there's a lot of stay at home orders and a lot of quarantining going on. Um, so question regarding that. I mean, have you uh, been working from home, and are you finding more time in the shop, or have you been kind of stuck working in the office or working from home and just been wrapped up in that?
I am working from home. I'm fortunate that everything that we do in terms of advertising, the marketing design is it's all done on the computer, and I can send a client a PDF and get an approval, and just call it a day.
Yeah,
So it's quite different from when I started in the industry. Everything was hands on, a lot of print based stuff, a lot of print based stuff. Um, but now, yeah, I can do my job from home, sitting at my computer for sure.
that's it's always nice to take stock of that and realize, you know what, hey, and sort of same for me, where most of my job is online, and
Hmm.
so I'm minimizing trips out to the office. I think I've been twice in like 40 days. I'm only going a little crazy, but again, it could be worse. So, are you spending any extra time in the shop working on knives, or have you not had a chance to make time for that yet?
Yeah, I'm either always in there, or I'm always uh, sketching or developing or thinking about stuff. But yeah,
Mhm.
since it's in my garage, I don't have to worry about driving anywhere. So
Mm.
yeah, I'll go out there, and right now it's all about since the latest chef's knife was delivered to the customer, I've gone back out there and kind of like what I do just to clear my mind is I kind of like clean up and like reorganize, and
Mhm.
then the next project and stuff like that. Um, and it'll just be a matter of time before I dive into the next project, which I don't even really know what it's going to be. To be honest with
You
you.
know what though? That's no, that's good. That's a good place to be. To be able to kind of have that freedom of choosing what you're going to work on, and I like that idea of just keeping things fresh, and because again, not to use myself as an example every time, but like with the podcast, like I can only do so many solo episodes before and trust me, the last couple weeks, you guys have probably gotten a 9 or 10 minute of me just rambling because I can't think and I haven't had my coffee and all that, but just changing it up enough, and trying to find something new and exciting to wear. I like that. I like that you've got it kind of to where um, you get to pick what you work on. You don't make a ton of the same stuff over and over and over again, so it doesn't get old or boring or tired or anything like that.
Yeah,
So
set work-life balance. Yeah.
yeah, um, I'm trying to think. I've talked to a few makers, and some of them take a more traditional approach. I know earlier you mentioned books and DVDs and all of that stuff. Um, and a lot of forums. I mean, that to me, again, I'm not a maker to any uh by any means, but are you noticing kind of a shift away from that stuff? And now, I mean, I can jump on YouTube, or I can Zoom, or I can get on Facebook with someone. I mean, do you still deep dive and learn, or is there always learning going on, or do you feel like you're pretty comfortable?
There's always, if you ever wake up one morning and think you've learned it all, then you're not searching hard enough.
Right.
Um, so yeah, I'm always learning. But in terms of how you learn nowadays is completely different.
Yeah.
Um, because one of my first mentors was a man by the name of Lee Oates from LaPorte, Texas. He taught me how to forge. He was offering beginners forging classes. And so at
Nice.
the time, I thought that was kind of the direction I wanted to go in. So I traveled down there, spent a couple of days with him and forged out my first knife. And I really thought that was the direction I wanted to go. Fast forward to about 2004, and I went to the. Are you familiar with the ABS?
Enlighten those that might not be.
Oh, okay. So the American Blacksmith Society (ABS) is basically focused on traditional forged knives, similar to what you might see on Forged in Fire.
Okay.
Uh, and so they have a program where you can basically gain your journeyman smith all the way up to master smith and all that kind of stuff. And they offered a 2 week course. And so one year, 2004, I basically took my vacation time and went and beat a bunch of steel for 2 weeks,
Nice.
only to come back to Houston tired as hell. And I also realized that while I enjoyed my time there, um, I realized that Houston isn't the best place for carbon steel because I would forge and start to work on a knife. I'd come back the next day only to see like surface rust on my
Uh,
blade on the bench.
Gotta love that humidity, right?
Yeah, so it just killed me over time,
Yeah.
and not to mention that you can't 3 quarters of the year you can't really forge because it's too damn hot here.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
When it's 105 degrees outside, it's 115 degrees inside inside your garage when you're trying to forge. So
Yeah.
I quickly realized the benefits of stainless steel. And like I said, I kind of transitioned to that was around the time I transitioned to making folders as well, which
Okay.
which is a lot more hands on, a lot more tinkering, which I really enjoy.
Mhm.
So, just I don't even remember what your original question was, but that was the rabbit hole I went down.
No, 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 that's great. That's the rabbit holes are great. No, no, no. We're just that idea of kind of how things are changing and to me, again, I've seen
Oh, that.
there are some accounts that I've seen that are relatively new makers, and again, the idea of making a knife from steel to folding and locking and detent and all this, like the thought of it, it's just a lot for my brain. But I'm always just curious of how people get to that point, and I know a lot of it is community driven and a lot of questions and forums. I was never big into forums even when they were a big thing, and I know that now there are still some forums, but they're a lot less used than they used to be.
Yeah,
Um, but no,
for
no,
real.
that's cool. And you, so not to go off on a totally different tangent, you mentioned Forged in Fire. Now, as the resident knife guy at work, that being I carry knives and I sometimes sharpen them. That's the qualification for knife guy at the office. Um,
And I'm sure you paid what for that?
Right. Oh, that's a daily conver that's the first I'm like, I get a new knife and I'm like walking around, I flip it open. Hey, how much is that one? That's yes, that happens a lot.
Yeah.
But people always ask me if I watch Forged in Fire, and I do not. I have never watched it. I know what it is. Is that something you watch? Is that something I should check out?
Oh, I've definitely tuned in and watched the episodes. I'm not sure where they are now, but I definitely watched it early on because I was intrigued. I thought, hey, what's it like to have a show dedicated to nothing but knife making?
Yeah.
But that was, it's like, hey, it kind of hits close to home, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I really watched it, and I'm a fan. Um, it's got its pluses and minuses, and I mean, but for sake of being entertainment, it is what it is.
It's good. Okay.
It's good. It's good.
I'm gonna have to check it out. My dad, he watches it. And my dad, and I didn't know this about my dad until he started noticing my interest in knives as a now almost 30-year-old. Um he had actually made a few in his younger days,
Oh yeah,
and so now I have them. Uh, the kind of thing that I think a lot of makers do. Started with a file, and put an edge on it and put a hand. So now I actually have a couple really nice fixed blades that he made. I don't know
That's
really anything about them other than that he made them, and they're cool, and I'll keep them. But point being, he actually got me a knife for Christmas that was made by someone that was on Forged in Fire and I think won the show. I don't know. I don't know if it was somebody that won. I don't know if there were winners on the show. But he got me a knife, and so I have this huge I wouldn't even call it a kitchen knife. It's somewhere between a chef's knife and a machete. And I haven't used it because I haven't made any large meats yet, like a brisket or something. Um, but that's so I don't know that's when you said something about it, I was like, I should ask him if that's a show worth checking out because I have this knife, and it would be cool to go back and watch the episode of the guy. I forget who it is that made it, but
a
anyway,
great gift. Yeah.
yeah, it was really cool. I was like, it was a very odd package, and it had some heft to it, and so I have no clue. And he had mentioned it before, and I opened it up, and I was like, oh, and so he started telling me he got one, and he got one for my brother, and so yeah, that's just my little
Well, props to
forged
your
in
dad,
fire.
and props to your dad for even trying to make a knife.
Oh yeah, I mean it blows my mind that it's even a thing. I should go get them and post up a picture soon because they're pretty
Absolutely.
cool. Um, yeah, and people ask me all the time as the knife guy, you ever thought about making one? And I'm like, well, no, but that no gets less and less resistant the longer that I am in the hobby. So maybe one
Uh-oh.
day I'll take a stab at it, but no pun intended.
Uh-oh.
But
That's maybe not a bug you want to get. Yeah.
yeah,
What?
that's like everybody always says not to get into watches, and I'm just like, I don't. So now I feel like knife making is gonna be my watches, or I'm just gonna be like, one day I'll just try, and then a few $1,000s worth of grinders later, here we are. No, I'm just kidding. That's not gonna happen. April, if you're listening to this, I'm sorry, and I'm not gonna spend that money. Um, yeah. Anyways, um, so I always try to talk about favorites and stuff like that. And so, I mean, is there anything that sticks out in your journey of 20 plus years of making knives? Is there a knife that sticks out, or a model, or a specific project that like really sticks out as kind of a favorite, or a particular challenge that you really liked?
Oh, okay. Well, a lot of them, they all have history because since I don't normally like just like have them for sale.
Mhm.
A lot of times they've gone to friends and family or people that I know closely, and I work with people throughout the process. They have, they get to choose the materials with me and all that kind of stuff. I give
Mhm.
them a selection. I'll usually send photos if they're not close by and stuff like that. So I want them to actually feel like they're part of the whole process.
Mhm.
So by the time it's done, I mean that's what you know really makes me enjoy making something custom each and every time.
Mhm.
But if anything would have to stand out, it would be the folder that's on my webpage, the homepage,
Mhm.
because that was a gift to a colonel in the army,
Oh, wow.
and yeah, he was gifted that knife. It was ordered by my buddy who was in the army, who I'd already made a couple of knives for.
Mhm.
So it was a custom order, and he just reached out and he said, I want something very special, and this is what I want. And of course, he was willing to work with me on materials and stuff like that. But
Mhm.
yeah, that had to be like the most mind blowing like experience ever.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's a looker too. I'm a fan of that one.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay. And so, as this continues to be kind of a hobby for you, and something you do when you got time, I mean, is there anything on the horizon, anything you're looking forward to, or anything you want to try, or anything you haven't tackled yet that you hope to?
Oh, anything I haven't tackled or tried yet? Um, well, just more folders.
Mhm.
Um, I always have to wonder why people carry a certain certain style of knife. And for me, what I realized is that I was buying, and we can get into production knives now because I mean that's mainly what I carry in my pocket.
Mhm.
Uh, they get used and they get used hard. And after a while, I realized that I was primarily carrying Spyderco's
Mhm.
just because they fit my hand. I like the opening hole and all that kind of stuff. So if I had to like shoot for something, I would love a Spyderco collaboration.
Do it. I'm
Yeah,
down. I'm down. I'm down for
yeah.
that. Need a Daigle with the Spidey hole. I'm in. Absolutely. No, yeah, I mean, no, that's it's interesting. I was talking with McNeese on the last episode
Yeah,
yeah, and he was talking about that process, and that's always intrigued me. Wrongfully so, originally I was kind of not a fan of this makers going with collaborations, and I guess in my head I was like, well, it cheapens their design, but then now that I think it through and am logical about it, I'm like, well, it cheapens their design so that I don't have to pay, so I have the McBee and it didn't cost me $600. And so
sure.
to me, I think it broadens your audience and perfect example is Jonathan. I mean, I didn't know who he was until the McBee was a thing. And so I think anytime a maker can collaborate and put their design in front of more people, I think it's a huge, huge thing. So yeah, I mean that I would love to see something like that. And honestly, I know Spyderco makes chef's knives. If I could see a Daigle Spyderco collab chef knife, I'm in. Again, I'm in 100%.
With a big hole in the blade.
God, yes. Oh, I listen, I had a phase, as does everyone that carries knives, where I really enjoyed cleavers, okay? And I had a giant folding cleaver with a giant cleaver hole in it for no reason. Um, I guess a chef's knife with a spidey hole is still pretty cool. Anyways, no. So okay, so no, that's cool though. I mean, I like the idea of aspiring to have some kind of collaboration, and that to me is again just being able to branch out and get your name and your design in front of people that wouldn't have seen it otherwise. Like
Yeah,
that's
for sure.
huge. So okay, I mean, I know you said you don't know what the next project is, but what are you itching to make now? I mean, anything specific?
Um, yeah, people ask, what's on my bench, and hold on just a second. I'm sorry,
Sure.
that was my
No, you're fine.
um. People ask, hey, what's on your bench and all that kind of stuff, and the answer is too much. Um, so to I guess your question is just tackle a couple of folders that I've had in the works, and they're at varying stages of completion. So everything from maybe 25 to 75%. I mean, I've got some hardened blades that just need to be ground,
Yeah.
and the liners and the handles are already done.
Nice.
So yeah,
Whew. So okay, and I'll not to pick on you, but I've found that there are some sort of local sort of niche makers, whether it's like Paul Lusk or again regionally, they're all over the place, but um, there's some folks I see that aren't as active on Insta. I'm 100% active on Instagram. I spend my time there. You, on the other hand, I mean, do you? I know you said a lot of them end up going to like repeat buyers or family or friends or whatever. Do you have a Facebook page, sales or inquiries mostly through the website, or what's that like?
well, yeah, I do have Facebook, which is primarily for friends and family. That's my social page.
Uh
I
huh.
don't have like one set up just for knives. That has something that I've thought about, especially since working from home and having a little bit more time on my hands. I was thinking about creating one. I'll be the first to admit I'm really bad at social media. I'm really bad at keeping up with it because it's a job in itself.
Oh, for sure.
And you mentioned, the podcast. After a while, it kind of becomes, you realize that, you know, sometimes you might not want to do it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I'll be the first to admit that I'm not the best at social media, and I don't have a lot of followers. Not that I'm chasing that anyway. But I probably should focus a little bit more on the Facebook and posting more on Instagram because evidently people like posts even if it's like nonsensical, boring stuff.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's and not and again, that wasn't to pick on you.
No,
I
that's
like your feed. I like seeing the stuff you make and the ridiculous things you post sometimes. Um, but, again, to me, that's where, I focus all of my energy to the point where my boss gets on to me because, he's really into Twitter and I'm not. I mean, I have a Twitter, I use it, but it's just work-wise for the accounts that I manage for my day job, it's all the posts that I put out are automated. I have a scheduler and it sends to all of them, and he'll see a post we made on Twitter and he's like, "That's not formatted," and I'm like, "Yeah, but look at the, awesome videos we just posted on Instagram," and so I guess that's always something that interests me is, like, where is your focus or where do you get a lot of your interest. And again, I didn't find you on Instagram. I found you on Google. I just Googled like Houston knife maker and you popped up. So I'm always just curious to where the leads come in and how you manage that kind of stuff.
usually word of mouth.
Okay.
So I mean, I've been very fortunate for the people who have ordered knives from me, and I've sent knives to. They will usually tell people, and then like put them in touch with me and all that kind of stuff, and that's kept me happy until up until now. I removed contact information from my website only because I was getting so much spam, and
Hmm.
then you would have tire kickers emailing me and asking me to make stuff that I wasn't comfortable with, and it's like, no, I'll never make you a ninja sword and stuff like that.
A ninja sword.
Well, because you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. It's like, is there a ninja sword posted on my website? Then why are you asking?
Yeah, that's funny.
I, I got fed up with it because I was so busy at work, and I was like, you know what? I just want this to be a hobby, and I don't want it to become. I don't want it to feel like work.
Yeah.
And um, yeah, so
Yeah.
I don't know if that answered your question,
Yeah, no,
but
no, absolutely. No, I mean that's great. That's
word of mouth,
absolutely.
family, just yeah.
Do you do any, like, knife shows? Do you go to any I know you mentioned Blade a while back, but, like, any of the more local stuff or have you, or do you plan on it in the future?
I'd love to. I just can't find. I can't find enough time to have enough product. I mean,
Yeah.
if I would show up to a knife show and have one knife on the table, you know.
Yeah, no, no, no,
Um,
that makes sense. I guess, yeah. Thinking through that question, I'm like, "Okay, well, yeah, no, 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 he makes." Okay. No, I'm with you. That makes total sense. Like, just this idea of kind of made to order knives,
hey, look. If I was a monster like some of the guys out there who can like crank them out, I'd love to go to shows because
right.
I love to just hang with other knife makers and stuff like that. I'd love to meet the people who buy the knives. Don't get me wrong, I'd love to be there, but at the same time, I just don't think it's justifiable to,
Yeah,
to be as a maker when I've got just a couple of knives on the table.
sure.
Even if they would sell, it's like I don't think it's a good idea.
No, 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 you're good. Um, yeah, I mean, we've talked about nothing but knives. I mean, let's completely shift gears.
Sure.
Aside from knives, I mean, what's hobby-wise? What do you like to do? What do you do for fun
Oh man. Well, diving
besides
into
make knives?
yeah, diving into your feed, we have a lot in common. Everything from video games to guitar,
Nice.
and then of course we work in roughly the same industry.
Mhm.
I know you're a little bit different now, but
Yeah.
yeah.
So, you said video games. What do you like to play the most? What's your go-to?
Uh, so I cut my teeth on the Atari 2600
Oh,
back in the day.
goodness. Okay. Yeah, yeah.
old school, kicking it old school.
Yeah, throwing it back. I like it.
Oh, when you had a joystick and one button, that's all you needed. And then, of course, when my high school days and college days, I was too busy with school and whatnot, so I kind of forgot that they even existed.
Right.
And after college, a friend of mine was like getting rid of his Sega Genesis, and he's like,
Ooh,
"You
yes.
hell yeah!" And he had a couple of games in it, and I guess that kind of like it kind of like got me back into it. So I mean, I'm into everything, a little bit of everything
Yeah.
from fighters to my wife and I played an MMO for 10 years together.
Nice. I like it.
Yeah, to some racing games, first person shooters. Um, I don't know. I can tell you all kinds of
Oh,
genres.
that's good. Um, you said guitar, so now naturally that piques my interest a little bit. How long you been playing? What do you play? Tell me a little bit about that.
You're a Fender guy, right?
I am a Fender guy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I currently have uh, uh, a Gibson Les Paul,
Okay.
LBJ. I've got a J Tercer semi hollow body,
Ooh,
and I am currently building a couple of. I mean, we're getting into like all my hobbies now. So I'm building a couple of different guitars. One is basically a kind of like a nod to Eddie Van Halen,
uh-huh.
single humbucker, Floyd Rose, and the other one that I'm building is actually a Strat copy.
Okay.
So, because I love that Stratocaster squawk.
Mhm.
I mean, you just can't replace that tone. So that's a couple of things.
Oof.
Yeah,
Alright, yeah, we're gonna nerd out on that a little more. No, that's good. Now I yeah, right now I've the collection has gotten smaller. Mostly it's my SRV American Series Strat. That's my go-to. Um, but yeah, that's okay. No, that's cool. That's very cool. I didn't realize we had all that in common. So that's cool to know.
yeah,
Knife makers are people too.
yeah.
No, this has been a good like 47, 48 minutes. I mean, do you have anything you wanna talk about? You wanna bring up? I mean, the floor is yours. Not to put you on
Okay.
the spot or anything. Wow.
Yeah, sure. I mean, if we're talking about something that might be timely, I mean, what do you think? How do you think, personally, this is going to impact your hobby and my hobby, and how those kind of like intertwine? Because I know you're into the EDC side of things, so
Yep.
you're more into the production knives, and you're not really into flashlights, are you?
No, I have several times tried to be a flashlight person. I've recently uh Rovivon sent me a tiny little light and that I've been using for I don't know a week or two and I'm really digging it, but otherwise no.
But you're into the thing I enjoy is that you're into the handmade stuff, like the handkerchiefs,
Yeah.
the leather goods, and
Yeah.
stuff. And so I think your side of the hobby is going to be impacted equally as my side of the hobby,
Sure.
because let's be honest, none of these things, no one really needs a custom knife.
Right.
And so, how do you see this impacting our hobbies going forward? How do you see it impacting the makers?
Oh, man. Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine what it is like being your own company and your own boss for these folks that are solo makers, um, and having to deal with kind of the uncertainty and the stress. My brain just can't wrap around all that.
Yeah,
Um, I'll say personally, like I've been, and I said this I think in the last episode that I did by myself that I've been very, blessed in that I'm able to continue working from home. My wife is still working, and like everything is, with the exception of working from home, like we're somewhat normal still. Um, but even that, I've still started to kind of um, monitor my purchases and what I'm looking at, and I'm a little bit more conscious of, hey, do I need this? Um,
Sure.
to kind of answer your question, I think it's going to be tough, and people are definitely going to think a little harder. I think we're there's going to be a lot less impulsive, because that's a lot of my purchases in the EDC world. Is like, ooh, there's a drop, shiny, let me get it. Um, and I think that that's gonna kind of go away. I'd like to see more makers go to sort of a pre-order model. I think to me that makes more sense for them, not to tell them how to run their business, but that to me, if you get some kind of pre-order system going and you get some sort of commitments, then you can kind of measure, engage, you know, but no, I mean, I think it's going to be tough, and I think again, people are really just going to start to think a little more thoroughly before pulling the trigger on stuff.
Sure.
Um, so yeah, I mean that's great. It's still every day. I'm like, man, this is people keep talking about getting back to the new normal, and I'm like, well, I don't know that the new normal's coming back. I think I'm hoping that this is going to make people rethink some things, and um, I see a lot changing from this, but I've always been a big fan of supporting small makers and small businesses, and um, one of the things that I have seen from all of this is a lot of people are kind of rallying to support their local businesses, and I hope that that kind of stuff continues.
Yeah, I hope so too. I
Yeah.
hope so.
Well, man, we're at 52 minutes. April's favorite number, for those that didn't know. Regular listeners of the podcast may not even know that one, so there's a little nugget for you. Chris, I don't have anything else for you unless you got something. I think we can call it a day.
No, it's been a great time.
Yeah, we'll have to do this again. Again, thanks to our not sponsor Zencaster for giving us the wonderful technology to click a button and send a link and record. It makes this very, very easy. So we'll have to
I
do this again
gotta
very
say,
soon.
I gotta say, it was very easy.
Oh, that's good to hear. This is the third one I've done, and I'm feel like each time I'm getting a little better. So that's good.
I thought it might. I thought it might take a lot more than this to set up, and it did not.
Yeah, and whenever I was first, so I reached out to Tom to do one because we've been talking about doing one forever. And he was like, "Yeah, do you want to Skype or Zoom?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't need to see you, and I don't think you need to look at my ugly mug. But let's, And I had done some digging, and I had found this and kind of kept this software on the back burner, but
Are you
had
are you talking about, are you talking about Notorious?
yep, yeah, yeah.
Oh, you
Uh,
know what? I gotta tell that guy something. Tom, guess what? Blue anodized is still cool. So take that.
oh, he said it. He said it. You heard
I
it here,
said
folks. That's so funny.
it.
That is so funny. I've been giving Tom a hard time about that forever because that stuck with me when he said it. So that's so funny.
Well, I love that you brought it up because it's like trends can beat people to death in this hobby, whether it be stone texture or anodized colors or handle colors or stuff like that. But when he said that, I just kind of I had to laugh.
Oh, that's
Had to laugh.
good. All right. Well, for those that are not already following Chris, like I mentioned earlier, you can follow him on Instagram at Daigle Daigle_knives. You can check out his website. It is daigлекnives.com. And soon follow him on his Facebook page where he's going to do all kinds of cool stuff, maybe. But if not, Instagram is still there, and he's got a really cool feed. And I think you should go check him out and show him some love. And Chris, thanks for taking out an hour of your day to chat with with me on this goofy show.
No, that's been great, man. I really appreciate it.
All right, guys, thanks again for listening. We will talk to you in the next episode. Peace.
Peace.